Yeah, okay, and we have just real quick, folks. I asked you to see this earlier. Um, we have this thing where they're trying to establish that there's burglaries going on. It's not just of this facility; it's going throughout the entire community. The McMichaels have been burglarized as well, so they're starting with that. That there was a previous contact with Ahmaud Arbery 11 days earlier. Now, here's the part that I want to ask you about that I asked KC about. We have a lot of these cases where there's states where there's very open carry laws, carry these weapons. People carry them for their self-protection. They feel in danger about something. They pull the weapon out. Then the person obviously on the other side of the weapon is in fear. And so they may go to grab the weapon in order to defend themselves. And then the person shoots them because they're afraid the person's going to get the weapon and shoot them with their own gun, which may I add, by the way, and I've gone through the police training commission training, they teach officers about this all the time, that if your weapon gets taken away, you can be killed. So that he was talking in terms of that training, of which he has a significant amount of training. And also, lastly, about how pulling a weapon out sometimes is part of the continuum of force, even if you can't use deadly force to back somebody down. Did that resonate with the jury at all in terms of his knowledge of those things and those concepts coming across?
In my opinion, it's difficult to say how each individual juror is going to accept it. For me personally, here's where I come down on this. He goes, he's obviously got the gun. It's legal for him to have the gun. There's no question about that. But as he's coming across Ahmaud Arbery, his own testimony makes it clear that Arbery's not carrying anything. He doesn't have a backpack. He's not holding a box. He's got a t-shirt and cargo shorts on. He's got nothing in his hands. He's running up the street. So right then and there, you know that he hasn't gone through and looted this unsecured construction site. So that has to be the frame where this whole thing begins. The whole analysis has to begin with he's not actively in the course of running away from a construction site carrying loot. So that doesn't necessarily mean he hasn't committed a crime, but it's not obvious. So the idea then that you're going to pursue him and use a gun to stop him becomes a little bit more difficult to justify. And if I'm a juror, I'm sitting there thinking your premise is a little bit difficult for me to swallow because you haven't articulated him doing anything in this particular instance. You've discussed running into him, 11 days earlier, but in this particular case, when you come upon him, he's jogging through a neighborhood. You've conceded that. That's all that you've said that he's done. And your response is essentially to pull a gun on him and try and stop him, which leads to this whole tragic situation happening. So if I'm a juror, I'm really struggling, with the whole back and forth. And somebody who has this training understands guns and their inherent danger and how they work and that they are intended to inflict, grave bodily injury or death. The idea that a gun was used in this particular situation, I have a lot of doubts about the propriety of.